Here this morning with Bob Cornwell. I'm going to talk about handhole makeup.
Okay, handhole makeup is fairly simple in a residential setting. First thing to know is you're going to be working 120, 240. All of this in applicant should be de-energized, but never take that as fact. First thing that you want to do when you walk up on a handhole, it's either going to be closed up or it's going to be opened up like this. You want to make sure that you know whether or not it's energized. If somebody else is working on the line before or after you, you want to know without a shadow of a doubt that what you're working on is not live. Most applicant stuff that we do is all done de-energized. We don't touch the source connections. We don't energize it. That being said, accidents do happen. People make mistakes. People plug things in that shouldn't be plugged in, and you don't want to be on the receiving end of somebody's mistake. So the first thing that I would do, if I walk up to a handhole, first thing we need to do is figure out if this is going to be a four-way or a six-way. They make Utilco bars or junction bars in different formations. Edison typically uses 4 and 6. We used to use 8. They don't use those too much anymore. And so the difference in that would be this is a Utilco bar with 6 positions. That means you can plug up to 6 different pieces of cable, 6 different ducts going 6 different directions. This one's the same thing, it's just got 4. When you look at your duct, your duct, how many ducts you've got, that's going to determine how many positions you're going to need on the Utilco bar. In this one, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3 different ducts, and that's going to necessitate a 4-way Utilco bar rather than a 6. You can go with a 6 in a pinch. If you don't have a 4, it's always better to have more if you need. You cannot put a 4 if you need 6 positions. If you don't got a multimeter, these are a little bit cheaper. They work just the same. They'll show you if there's anything on the line. They'll light up. Nothing.
How do you know that's working? Maybe the battery's dead in it.
I actually tested this one at the shop this morning to make sure that it was working, and it tested fine.
You test that like at a
known hot source. Yeah. So you got an outlet, in your garage or at the shop. Go ahead and throw it in there just to make sure that it's working. Or if you've got something that is hot, you can test it there. If you are testing in something that you are almost absolutely sure is hot and it's not working, but you've got new batteries, grab another meter, test the meter, make sure that your equipment is operating correctly. Okay, so from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. When these are all made up, we want them to fold over and sit nicely at the end of the handhole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cutters here, and now if I didn't test this, one thing that you want to do always is make sure you're cutting one at a time. And the reason for that is that, again, if there's anything on the line, you don't want to connect both of those at the same time. And this we're going to get set up. Okay, now what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and mark, like I said, you've got 2 phases and a neutral. What I'm gonna do, you've got a red. They mark the cables now with color. Sometimes you'll come across a set of cables, there won't be any colors on them, but they're gonna be marked A and B. So your A phase is gonna be marked with red tape. B phase will just leave black, but for this, the cable's marked with colors.
What's the third wire?
Neutral, that's marked with the yellow. The XLP wire that Edison uses, it's always marked with the yellow stripe. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna mark it right here. And it's about 8.5 inches back from tip to tip. And then I'm gonna take in the same duct. So all these go together. All these wires go together. I'm gonna take my tag that was on the cable, and your tag is gonna say something. It's either gonna have a service number on it, or this one is going to H 3250, 88 feet northeast. So we're going that way. 88 feet, there's gonna be another handhole over there. Same process, that one's getting made up the same way, but this tag shows you where that cable goes. And I'm gonna wrap that a couple times. I'm gonna fold that tag over, being really careful because these tags are very sharp. So always have your proper PPE. Gloves are a must. These tags will cut you faster than you can say ouch. Taking my tag that's attached to that cable, this one to P5784325, 148 feet northwest. So northwest, I'm looking that way. There's a transformer over there. This number correlates to that transformer. Cut the wraps there. Hold that back over here. Boom. One more tag. Go ahead and mark that one. Back there. Now all of our cables are marked. We know where they're going. I'm just going to go ahead and clean up this tape. It's sitting on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab a knife. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you three different ways of stripping the cable. This is the preferred method. This is what we do, especially when you're starting out. We're going to go ahead, and one thing I wanted to show you too. So there's a strip length on the back of this. It'll show you how far. Basically, what you want to do is strip off enough insulation to where when the cable goes in, it's going to hit the back of the bar. And so you need to get that much insulation off so when you stick it in, it hits the back of the bar. So I'm gonna take this. Make sure your knife is sharp. And that's like a pencil method. So what it does is it kind of, it puts like a pencil tip on the insulation. It makes it a lot easier to actually slide it into the bars, because those things will step off and it makes it a little difficult to get in sometimes. Make sure the insulation is kind of even all the way around. That's the first method. The second method is a little more advanced. It's a ring cut, and so the way you do a ring cut and is you're gonna go ahead and take your first bite off of it, kind of dig your knife in, and you're gonna wrap your knife in all the way around, trying to be careful to pull the insulation up while the blade of your knife kind of peels it up off of the conductor. And then the last method is a lot safer. You will not be nicking any kind of conductor, and that's using a tool that's actually made for stripping insulation. This is my favorite tool right here. This will peel the jacket right off of the conductor, and what you do is you just line it up there. I've already checked the blade to make sure it's going to go into the insulation and not nick the conductor. Once you get it set up just right, you should be able to do all 3 sizes of cable without touching the adjustment on the blade. And the way that works, you're just going to run it down a couple times to about where you need it, block it off with your hand, pull it up, and it comes off just like that. The difficult part about this is it's going to step it just like a ring cut, and so when you go to put it in the bar, you got to make sure that your lube is kind of on that step to where it helps guide it into the utility bar. But you can see I'm already set up. I can dig that in, pick it up, perfect cut, no nicks in the wire. And now I'm going to move on to the 4/0, because like I said, you got 350 here. Their neutral is downsized. I'm not touching the blade on this. It's still set up the same way. Boom, peel that off, just like that. Once that's done, you're going to set up your utility bars. So they come in these bags. Grab a knife, being careful not to cut the utility bar. Pull that out. They come with a little packet of grease. So we supply some grease that we can use in the utility bars. It makes it a little bit faster, a little bit easier than trying to cut these and use them. So we'll go ahead and open these up. Set that aside there. And so when I'm making up, before I do this, I need to find out where my ducts are going to land, where my cable's going to land in the utility bar. Because what you want to do is you want to go from one side to the other. This cable right here is in a duct on this side. This cable right here is right in the middle, and this one is to the right side. I've only got 3 ducts, so I'm only going to need 3 positions. I'm going to start on the left, pop these out, pop your screw plugs, 3 of them, just like that. Set that aside. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Pop these screw plugs, move on to the next bar, pop these, 3 screw plugs, pop these out. What I like to do first is loosen all my lugs and get them ready. You don't need to go too far. I mean, you need to be able to clear the 350. That's the biggest cable that we're going to stick into this. These are 350 sized to accept 350 MCM. Go ahead and do that again. Do that to all 3 bars. If it comes out, just got to be careful. Drive it in really slow. being careful not to cross thread it. You don't want to cross thread it because you're going to destroy the whole bar, especially if you need all 4 positions. And now you've lost one. So once that's done, what I'm going to do, I've got 350 here, I've got 1/0 in the middle, and I've got 4/0 on my right side here. My neutral, again, is one size down. So when I say 350, I got 350 cable here, but my neutral is a 4/0. 4/0 is the next down in line. I got 1/0 here, so I'm going to have a number 2 neutral, and I've got 4/0 here, which means I'm going to have a 1/0 neutral. So what I'm going to do is 4/0, number 2, and 1/0 when I cut my plugs. So I'm going to open up the plug here, and these are numbered. If you ever forget, for the most part, it's like, I think it's 2/0 to 4/0 when you cut this first line, number 2 to 1/0 when you cut the second line, number 2, so on and so forth. And you can look at it, they're written right there on the side. For here, I'm going to be running 4/0 in the first one, which means I'm going to cut this way up here, and then I'm going to shove it back in my Utilco bar. Now remember, this bar is going to sit in here just like that. This is going to come over here, plug, plug, plug. So my next wire, open this plug up, it's going to be a number 2, which means I'm going to cut it way down here. You don't want to cut them too big, because what this does is it prevents the water from intruding into the bar and causing issues down the line. That's going to plug in right there. And what I like to do too, a specific Utilco bar, it's got these little plugs. Just leave them unplugged and folded to the bottom, because if you put them on top, it gets in the way. And you know, it's basically for future use. If you ever have to pull a wire out, you can plug them up. Next in line, I'm going to run a 1/0 because my conductor's 4/0, so I'm going to run a 1/0, which means I'm going to cut it right there. Boom. That's my neutral bar. I'm going to keep that one separate because that one's different. 350 doesn't require a plug. The cable's going to fit it right in there. We're just going to lube it up, call it good. Got your 1/0. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut that to 1/0. Sorry, 1/0 right there. Get my next plug. That one's going to be cut to 4/0, which is up here. Sit in there just like that. I'm going to keep this one to the left. Next plug, remember 350, we don't need a plug in there, nothing to cut. Cut this one down to 1/0. Shove it in there. Next one down. Gonna be 4/0. Cut that at the 4/0 mark. These Utilco bars, by the way, they are already filled with like an inhibitor, almost like a Nolox, Penetrox, to keep the wire from corroding. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to throw a little bit of this lubricant in there. Not too much, because what you want it to do is you want it to go all the way around the plug. You don't want just a big gloppy mess, because that's just going to shove it down inside. And this is to help waterproof the cable when the rubber meets the insulation, is to keep the water out again. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw just a little bit in here. And then on my neutral, same thing. So now the downside with using the tool or even the ring cut is you're going to have to just kind of fill that gap just a hair to make it easier to get this Utilco bar to slide on. Kind of make it like a pencil tip that's already done with the when we skinned it like a pencil. It's just different. throw it on there. This doesn't need it because that's going to slide in nice since it's pencil tipped. Take my neutral bar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my 350 wire. The bigger wires, you're going to have to fight them sometimes, and so it's easier to start with the bigger wires and fight with the smaller wires where will go in a lot easier. And again, you want to make sure that they bottom out and keep these separate. So when you're running these, you want to make sure that this isn't sitting back here, because once I plug this in right here, and then I go to plug in my next bar, now these are all the way to the side. I'm going to have to fish them through here to get those to line up correctly on the position in the bar. So I'm going to run that in there, run that down, make sure it's bottomed out, and you'll feel the wire tighten up too once you start to crank down on it. And so the torque spec per manufacturer on these bars is 240 inch-pounds, which is 20 foot-pounds. Edison standard is 25 foot-pounds, a minimum of 25 foot-pounds on the Intelco bars. And what they want you to do, and I've already tested my gun. It hits right around 25 foot-pounds. So if I got this set to 25, boom, boom. Felt that one move just a hair, and boom. So you can see it's right in there, right around 25 foot-pounds. Take my plugs, don't wait till the last thing, plug them up. And actually, before you plug them up, give a tug on your wires. Make sure you didn't miss them. If there's any question, especially on the 350, once I go to stick the 350 in there, if there's any question whether or not it's backed out all the way, go ahead and pull that lug all the way out so you can actually see the wire bottomed out, because sometimes you'll think that you bottom it out and it's not bottomed out. It's actually just barely hitting that lug. And so you go to crank it down, and now you're smashing the tip and pushing the wire out. Now you got to try to get that smashed tip into a hole that's made for 350, and that's not fun all the time. I'm going to go ahead and tuck that in there just like that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and grab my first phase bar, B phase. We're going to plug these in. I want to do the 350 first because it's going to be a little more difficult to get in. I feel it bottom out, you know, when I'm holding on to it, I can feel it bottom out. I always want to start with the bigger cables first because it's a little bit easier to work with the smaller cables after the bigger ones have been plugged in. I'm going to go ahead and snug that up a little bit. And then I can start plugging the others. I got my 1/0 here. I felt that bottom out. Crank that down. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug in my 4/0 to the other handhole. Felt that one bottom out. I'm going to go ahead and crank these down. Give them a little yank. Fold that back down in there. I'm going to go for my next phase, A phase, which is going to sit on the top. Again, I got my tags on the top. Plug that in right there. Felt that thing bottom out. crank that down, follow that up with my service cable here, my 1/0, get that to set in, and you can tell I haven't felt it bottom out yet, and you can also tell because I've got these markings here that it's not in, hasn't gone in quite yet. Loosen this up a little bit here. I'm out, and you can see these tape markings kind of line up on the top. Crank that down. Last A phase, I'm gonna plug this in at the end. This is my 4/0 going northeast. Boom, felt that bottom out. Crank that down, and I'm gonna check, pull on them, make sure they're tight, nothing's coming out. And then I'm gonna go ahead and plug them up. Again, little handle facing down. Okay, so now that we know that all these are tight or plugged in, we can go ahead and shove these down on top of that. We're good to go. Only thing left to do here is to close it up. But before you close it up, have somebody come back through, double check, make sure all the wires are tight. Somebody's gonna come in here after you. They're gonna grab a hold of these. They're gonna pull on all these wires, all the phases, on all the bars, neutral bar, make sure that these are all tight. They're gonna make sure that they're all lined up in the same position on the bar. So I've got all my 4/0 in position 3, all my 1/0 in position 2, and all my 350 in position 1. We're gonna go ahead and they're gonna tuck these things in right here. Pull the lid and lock it down. Just enough torque, remember, just enough torque to tighten these things down, guys. You don't need to crank on them. You don't want to mess up these threads. It becomes a big issue. Somebody comes in here, tries to open up the hole after you, and they can't get the bolts out because they're all galled up. So just enough to tighten them up. That's it. And when you're done with that, pick up your tools. And your job is not complete yet until you've picked up your trash. All the trash in the area, anything that you left behind, your little pieces of insulation, plastic, any bottles, cigarette butts, anything that you left here, go ahead and make sure you pick it up. You want to pick it up, leave it looking better than you found it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your job foreman for more clarification on any questions you might have. Until next time, friends.
I hope you got something from this video on handhole makeup with Bob Cornwell. This video doesn't qualify anyone to be a secondary splicer and or to make up handholes and service panels. What it does is illustrates everything that it takes to make up a handhole correctly, all the components and procedures to get the job done right. Your foreman will qualify you when you're ready to be a secondary splicer, making up handholes and house panels. Until then, much repetition and practice is in play at how to strip wire without cutting into the aluminum or the copper. Give it some practice, and we hope to see you growing in the company and becoming a secondary splicer on your journey to becoming a qualified electrical worker.